On this Tuesday night, Donald Trump is on the attack again, and this time he's got China, Mexico, and one of America's biggest tech companies in his sights, slapping more tariffs on Chinese goods, linking his promised wall to NAFTA negotiations, and wiping billions from the value of Amazon. Is Trump using the power of the presidency to deliver economic change or just to settle scores?
Also tonight, an Ontario woman facing blindness. The procedure that could save her vision is covered in most provinces, but not her own. This is The National.
When Donald Trump takes to Twitter, he has the power to stoke trade battles, move markets, and cost companies billions. More evidence of that tonight. For the fourth time in a week, the president railed against Amazon and its founder, Jeff Bezos, sending its stock ricocheting all over the place. But as Keith Bogue tells us, there may be different motivation behind the president's attacks.
Amazon stock closed higher after a rough start, attributed to the president's Twitter account. He tweeted this morning that the company was costing the U.S. Post Office massive amounts of money for being their delivery boy. In a meeting later, he said this.
Amazon is going to have to pay much more money to the post office. There's no doubt about that.
Since Trump began tweeting about Amazon, its share price has dropped nearly $200 in the last 5 trading days. Its value as a company has dropped by about $60 billion, and its founder, Jeff Bezos, has seen roughly $18 billion of his personal worth evaporate. Trump seems to have had something against Amazon for a while.
Believe me, if I become president, oh, do they have problems. They're going to have such problems.
At a rally last year, he drew a link between Amazon and the Washington Post newspaper, a paper Trump thinks is against him, and that's also owned by Jeff Bezos.
The Washington Post, which I call a lobbying tool for Amazon, okay, that's a lobbying tool for Amazon.
Yet Trump seemed happy to have Bezos as an advisor to his economic council last year.
Thank Jared for doing that.
The president claims that his attacks on Amazon have to do with a sweetheart deal Amazon gets from the United States Post Office, a deal he says that costs the taxpayer a pile of money.
The post office is losing billions of dollars, and the taxpayers are paying for that money because it delivers packages for Amazon at a very below cost.
But analysts who understand the complicated balance sheet of the post office say it's actually making money in its Amazon deal, not losing money.
You know, I think Amazon has been contributed to the growth rate of their postal service rather than anything else. I mean, so, you know, that's kind of odd that he would bring that up.
What's odd but not unusual is the president's habit of attacking private businesses. He did so last year when Nordstrom dropped his daughter's clothing line, and he attacked the NFL when some players knelt to protest against racial inequality. Rosie?
So how serious is this kind of behavior, Keith, from a president?
Well, to some people, it's a very serious thing. Last year, after he attacked Nordstrom, I spoke to a former congresswoman who'd actually been on the committee that voted to impeach Richard Nixon. And she said his attack on Nordstrom at that time looked to her like a very clear abuse of office. And abuse of office is, very clearly, something that could be considered an impeachable offense.
Okay, the CBC's Keith Bogue in Washington tonight. Thanks, Keith. And the Trump administration raised the stakes in a growing trade showdown with China, outlining how it will punish Beijing for stealing U.S. trade secrets. 1,300 Chinese products will be affected by the new tariffs, targeting everything from electronics to aerospace equipment, machinery used to make shoes and clothes, and even medical products. This is just a proposal, though, for now, and the tariffs won't be applied for at least a month. But Beijing has already threatened to match Trump's move with their own tariffs on U.S. products. And while concerns about a trade war with China grow, there's a new push by the U.S. to strike a deal on NAFTA. Katie Simpson joins us now. Katie, what do we know about this new sense of urgency around the negotiations?
There's enough momentum right now, Rosie, that the Trump administration has organized some high-level NAFTA meetings. The Foreign Affairs Minister's office is still working out the details, but Chrystia Freeland is expected to travel to D.C. this week to meet with Robert Lighthizer, Donald Trump's top man on trade. Members of the Mexican cabinet are in Washington, too, and they're holding meetings as well. A senior source tells CBC News it is not out of the question for an agreement in principle to be reached over the next few weeks, adding that the Americans are being more positive and constructive than they have been in the past 8 months. There is a big push to get this wrapped up before the Mexican federal election this summer and U.S. midterms this fall. But even if an agreement in principle is reached, hammering out those final details could still take months.
Okay, so there may be these signs of momentum behind the scenes there, but how does that line up with what we've been hearing directly from the president, from Donald Trump?
Well, if you're watching from afar, it's kind of funny. What's happening behind the scenes sure does not match what Donald Trump is saying publicly. It's not the first time this has happened, and it's not likely to be the last time it's going to happen. Today, Trump ratcheted up his rhetoric. He's trying to link the outcome of the trade talks to getting tougher immigration laws in the U.S. and his border wall. He called NAFTA Mexico's cash cow, threatening the deal is in play if he doesn't get his way on immigration. Now, in the past, when this kind of bluster has come forward or emerged, negotiators have kept their heads down and tried to ignore the outside distractions. Those efforts may be pretty difficult this go around, given that all sides are trying to move forward under that condensed time frame. And a source that I did speak with today, Rosie, warned me, expect more drama as this process ramps up.
Basically the only thing that's guaranteed when Donald Trump is president. Katie, thank you for that.
Thank you.
The president also taking to Twitter to offer his condolences to people involved in a terrifying incident in Silicon Valley. Police responding to a shooting at YouTube's headquarters. The attacker, a woman, died at the scene after wounding at least 3 people and sending employees into a state of panic. At around 1 o'clock Pacific time, police started receiving 911 calls about a shooter at the YouTube offices, and crowds of people started running for safety.
Officers encountered numerous employees fleeing from the building. It was very chaotic, as you can imagine.
Exactly how the shooting unfolded is still unclear, but some shots reportedly were fired in an outdoor courtyard where employees were taking their lunch breaks.
And it was just like 2-3 shots. And then like within 30 seconds after that, or 40 seconds after that, then I seen the girl running out, and then she was shot in the leg.
3 people were taken to hospital with gunshot wounds. 1 of them is in critical condition. As for the shooter, police will only say it was a woman who turned the gun on herself. Investigators now trying to figure out what motivated this attack. A mass shooting at a U.S. workplace may not strike you as unusual, but a female shooter is. The Washington Post recently crunched the numbers, and by their definition of mass shootings, there have been 150 in the United States since 1966, only 3 of those involving female attackers. Here at home, an Ottawa mother is fighting to save her sight. She needs an expensive eye procedure and worries she could eventually go blind without it. But as Ashley Burke explains, even though the treatment is covered in nearly half the country, Ontario won't pay up.
I'm going to get you to look inside like a pair of binoculars.
Michelle Boyce helps her patients see clearly, but fears she could go blind before Ontario's health insurance plan steps in.
It makes me feel very upset and sad and angry. I shouldn't have to fight for my vision. Everybody should get the same chance.
So I'm going to take a look at your cornea.
Boyce was recently diagnosed with a degenerative eye disease called keratoconus that could lead to blindness.
Put yourself in my shoes. If you could never see your family again, your spouse, your kids, the people that are important to you, how would you feel that the government doesn't see the importance to cover this surgery?
The only way the province will pay for corneal transplant surgery is if Boyce loses her sight. But another procedure called corneal collagen cross-linking could prevent that. It can slow down the disease significantly or even stop blindness altogether. It is covered in 6 other Canadian provinces and territories.
These are the last calculations.
Ontario has been studying if it should cover cross-linking since 2012. It even funded a pilot project.
It's of value to patients with this condition, and patients with this condition in Ontario should be offered this treatment.
The study found cross-linking can be effective, but a year later, the government is still reviewing it. In the meantime, the program is still available for some patients. There is a waiting period, and patients need to qualify.
Let's have a look at your eyes. Put your chin there.
The trouble is, not everyone knows the program exists. Even specialists like ophthalmologist Dr. Mohammed Taha.
I think it should be advertised more. And I haven't told the patient that there is a program because I didn't know about it, actually.
As for Boyce, she says she doesn't have time to wait and wants the procedure now.
Ontario government needs to step up. They need to wake up and see that this is not an elective surgery. This is something that needs to be done.
Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
It is up to each province to decide what they will or won't cover. So it's pretty common that one patient has to pay thousands of dollars for the same medical care that another Canadian would have covered. Consider insulin pumps, which cost around $6,000 to $7,000. Some provinces pay for them. Some will only cover children or young adults, while other provinces will pay if you have a low income. Then there's the coverage or lack of for cancer drugs taken outside of hospital. In Western Canada, patients don't face the burden of paying for that medicine, but that's not the case in Ontario or the Atlantic provinces. Provincial pharmacare plans there don't cover that cost. Let's turn now to a humanitarian crisis and whether Canada should be stepping in. Rosemary?
That's right, Ian. Hundreds of thousands of lives are on the line. And today, Special Envoy to Myanmar, Bob Rae, said Canada should take a lead role. About 1 million, mostly Muslim Rohingya, have fled majority Buddhist Myanmar, running from violent attacks that many are calling ethnic cleansing. Among Rae's 16 recommendations, a multi-year funding plan from Canada of about $150 million a year for humanitarian assistance, education, and infrastructure. He says Canada should signal a willingness to accept more Rohingya refugees, and he recommends a coordinated international investigation into crimes against humanity and genocide. Evan Dyer takes a closer look.
8 months after the exodus began, the Rohingya continue to flee. This group reached Malaysian waters yesterday. 1 million Rohingya are still living in precarious camps across the border in Bangladesh. Myanmar says they're foreigners and can't return.
It's clear that there's no intention to have a substantial return. In fact, right now they're building not only fences, but mining them and making it very difficult. Their whole process of so-called verification with regard to nationality is a highly dubious and frankly contrary to their international obligation.
Bob Rae says Canada should ramp up its assistance for the refugees in Bangladesh while also bringing some to Canada. He doesn't suggest how many.
It offers some symbolic, number one, symbolic assistance to Bangladesh itself, saying you are not alone in this. Other countries are going to step in and not only write checks, but actually share in the responsibility of protecting refugees.
The Trudeau government hasn't made any commitments. In a written statement today, the Prime Minister said, "In the coming weeks, we will assess the recommendations in this report and outline further measures we intend to take." Another theme in Bob Rae's report is the need for justice.
Terrible things have happened, and people need to be held responsible for what's happened. Having said that, it's not easy to do.
The Myanmar government is trying to make it even harder, systematically bulldozing villages it already burned, according to satellite images. This is the riverside village Myar Zin, as seen from space in December after all of its homes had been burned. Here's the same village in February. 4 backhoes can be seen removing any trace of what happened here. The idea of bringing justice to the perpetrators seems remote today, says Neve, but evidence should still be collected, and Canada can help.
We have too many decades around the world where we can point to crises where justice was overlooked, where justice was put aside to another day, and where that only fueled further abuses because it deepens the impunity.
Right now, though, Myanmar's rulers seem to have little to worry about, while its Rohingya brace for the coming monsoon rains. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
The reality the Rohingya face is literally 10,000 kilometers away. But while it may be distant, it is dire. The UN calls it the worst refugee crisis in decades. It's hard to fully appreciate how immense this crisis is until you fly above it. Last summer, this Rohingya camp had about 30,000 refugees. It now has more than 500,000, by far the largest refugee camp in the world. Calgary doctor Fazia Alvi wasn't content to watch. She went there to volunteer.
I braced myself hard before going there, but what I saw as a mother, as a doctor, as a human being, it was heart-wrenching. I saw lots of orphan children there. Their parents were killed in front of them. Their throats have been cut. I have seen lots of pregnant women whose husbands have been shot.
Under ragged tarps, precarious lives cling to the land. About 100,000 are too close to the water in one of the wettest places in the world.
We're extremely concerned about the upcoming monsoon season and how it will impact on very vulnerable refugee families.
The UN brought in their Hollywood star to amplify its message.
Even with the sandbagging, it's still a very dangerous situation that they're facing.
It's a race against the coming rains to build higher ground and get people there. Moving to wait again, waiting to move again. This is now life for the Rohingya. Alvi believes what happened to them was a genocide. She wants pressure on Myanmar increased.
If we don't do this, the Myanmar will come in the same chapter in our history book as Rwanda, Congo, and other UN failures are. So international community need to step up.
We have a lot more ahead tonight on The National. He was trapped underground for more than 12 hours, swept away after falling into a sewage pipe. Well, tonight, the 13-year-old boy's ordeal in his own words.
And how crickets are going from farm to table. You'll meet the man who's now landing those insects on grocery store shelves.
And a little later, 50 years after Martin Luther King's assassination, American students reflect on his legacy.
We aren't staying still, and I think that's very inspirational. So Martin Luther King to me means a hope for a better tomorrow.
On a street where there are more marijuana cafes than ones that sell coffee,
gotta find what you like.
It's not surprising the idea of legalizing pot is an easy sell.
It's actually happening. There's nothing you can really do to control it, and you're gonna still go back and do it anyways, so why not legalize it?
That's the question a very unlikely source is also asking. In his report on BC's marijuana industry, this economics professor says by legalizing, then taxing pot, cash-strapped governments could collect an extra $2 billion a year. The report was funded by the very conservative Fraser Institute.
Who's going to get the spoil? Since we know it's out there already, the question is, to whom should the revenue go? Should the revenue go to people who you really may not like, organized crime in all its guises, or perhaps should we have, as society, have more access to that revenue to perhaps undo some of the harms that we think it may do?
But try selling that idea to government. BC Solicitor General says any gains made by taxing pot would be lost in trade with the U.S.
They have always made it pretty clear that even the issue of decriminalization, which was being looked at last fall by the federal government, would tighten up the borders and affect trade between the two countries.
There are an estimated 17,000 grow-ops in BC alone, tens of thousands more in the rest of the country. But police say legalization wouldn't lighten their load, it would just cause more problems.
The Fraser report talks about regulation. Who's responsible for that? More and more, who is? Like, does anybody know? I don't. That report didn't talk about that. How do you get that taxes in there? Who's going to be responsible for collecting those taxes?
Easton's report doesn't address the health or social concerns of legalization. His findings are limited to the bottom line. Just after the report's release, though, the Fraser Institute took pains to point out its own bottom line, saying it doesn't necessarily agree with the report's findings. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Vancouver.
Tonight on The National, Prince Philip is in hospital awaiting hip surgery. According to Buckingham Palace, the operation was planned and it will take place tomorrow in central London. The 96-year-old has missed a number of recent events, including this past Sunday's Easter service. British media is reporting he's had problems with his hip for about a month. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer accepted an invitation to be briefed on the Prime Minister's trip to India. Scheer has been hammering the Liberals with questions about the trip and how Jaspal Atwal, a man convicted of attempted murder, was able to secure an invitation to an official function. The government's national security advisor will lead the briefing. For the second year in a row, Toronto police will not be marching in the city's Pride Parade. Today, the department obeyed the wishes of 6 LGBTQ groups and withdrew its request to take part. In a statement, the groups made reference to 6 murder victims now linked to a suspected serial killer. The investigations into their disappearances were insufficient. Community knowledge and expertise was not accessed, and despite the fact that many of us felt and voiced our concerns, we were dismissed. We feel more vulnerable than ever. Natalie Collada took a deeper look at this historic rift, where it came from and where it could be headed.
You can find support for police on the streets of Toronto's gay village.
They're all citizens of Toronto.
But there's also frustration.
What this speaks to is underlying infrastructure issues with Toronto Police Services and a need to pull back and demonstrate some humility.
Tensions between police and the LGBTQ community have deepened this year as police charged Bruce McArthur with 6 counts of first-degree murder, just 1 month after the chief insisted there was no evidence linking a serial killer to disappearances from the gay village.
Bruce McArthur changed the nature of that conversation quite drastically.
But that conversation has always been tense. Pride itself was born from protest, a response to bathhouse raids by police. Over the years, police found a place in the celebrations until 2016. Activists with Black Lives Matter stopped the parade in its tracks, demanding uniformed officers not take part the following year because people of color might not feel safe.
This didn't start with Bruce McArthur. This is a long, ongoing, generational conversation.
Becky McFarlane is a director of an LGBTQ support group.
The end result needs to be a different institution, a different way in which we live together in this city, and a different way in which we acknowledge that not all of us have the same or are afforded the same privilege and freedom in our city.
But the police union worries excluding officers could make things worse.
I don't think this fosters a positive conversation. I think it just drives a wedge deeper between the police and the community.
Pride Toronto disagrees.
Marching in a parade as a symbol of inclusivity only masks what the real problems are.
Any solutions are likely to come after this year's parade. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
And these tensions between police and LGBTQ communities have played out across Canada. Vancouver's Pride Society has asked police not to march in uniform in this year's parade. Winnipeg police were invited to march in last year's Pride Parade, but not in uniform. Last year, Montreal's police chief agreed to apologize for past raids that targeted gay people. And Halifax police may return to that city's Pride Parade this year. Last year, they withdrew to avoid the sort of conflict we're seeing in Toronto.
Ahead tonight on The National, the passionate speeches of Martin Luther King Jr. You'll see how they resonate today, 50 years after the civil rights champion was silenced.
We need to understand that in our generation to come, that our fight is not over, that this generation can't be complacent.
To you, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted. Every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day with all of God's children. Be able to sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghanies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Be concerned about your brother. You may not be on strike, but either we go up together or we go down together.
Still powerful, still inspiring, the words of Martin Luther King Jr. rang out tonight, 50 years after the civil rights leader gave his very last speech against racial injustice. King was a national figure in the call for change, the voice of a movement. On April 3rd, 1968, he gave a speech in Memphis to support Black sanitation workers fighting for safer conditions. The next evening, as he stood on a hotel balcony, King was fatally shot. A half-century later, some students in the U.S. are poring over his message and asking what has really changed. Stephen D'Souza spoke with them.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
The power of one man's words. It takes confidence to read them, to believe them. They are a part of history.
We'll be able to sit down together at a table of brotherhood. I have a dream.
On the anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination, that speech is just one of his legacies.
Hi, my name is Jonathan. I'm from Flatbush. Jiggy Jonathan. Jiggy Jonathan.
For students like Jonathan Lewis, at this after-school program to build confidence and success through public speaking, King is an inspiration.
I realized for a Black man myself, it's only proper that I pay homage and educate myself on who this man is that paved the way for me and so many other colored people. I have a dream. We need to understand that in our generation to come, that our fight is not over, that this generation can't be complacent. I have a dream today.
Here, Lewis and other youth from marginalized areas are learning how words can wield power, influence others, and force change.
We've got some difficult days ahead, but it doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop.
And on the anniversary of his silencing, these students say they can feel his message and its meaning in their daily lives.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness, right? Only light can do that. hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. And that is such a big part of who I am today.
King fought for, was arrested for, and preached equality. At the time of his death, he was fighting for economic rights. And here, All-Star Project CEO Gabrielle Kurlander says that goal is the inspiration for what they do.
We're giving young people and their families economic opportunity, but we're also giving them, and I think Dr. King believed in this very deeply, opportunity to have a better life, to have happiness, to strive, to reach the mountaintop.
And I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
But here on the streets of Harlem, there's a feeling that much of King's message has been dumbed down, perhaps forgotten.
I feel deeply saddened, emotionally saddened by it, because this country and this Western society in general is so beholden to this racial divide. So it's very important that she not only understand the legacy of Martin Luther King, but understand that activism and social justice and just being part of that mediocrity is not what we're looking for.
I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain.
A defining moment in history, a dream to be realized. But has King's vision been reduced to one line?
Well, of course, they overdid the I have a dream thing, but the fact was, this was a man of action, constantly doing physical things to change the status quo.
We shall boldly challenge the status quo.
He spoke all over the United States, and 1 year before his death, while speaking here at Harlem's Riverside Church, his message took a turn. He became insistent.
His speech against the war in Vietnam was the one that got me, because it's speaking truth to power in a definite way. Not that he didn't do that before, but before was more activism and let's trot along. This was directly in your face. It's wrong. You need to stop it.
The election of Barack Obama seemed to be the realization of everything King fought for. But many worry that progress has come to a grinding halt in today's charged political climate.
I don't know what to think anymore.
What would Dr. King think about the situation now?
I think he's rolling over in his grave right now.
King's words still ring true today. Decades later, they are just as relevant. His influence is woven into the fabric of current social justice movements. His granddaughter, just 9 years old, echoed some of his most powerful words at the March for Our Lives rally last month.
I have a dream that enough is enough.
It all started with words, the power of truth, conviction, and faith, something King believed in, something these youth aspire to.
What Martin Luther King and other civil rights activists have done is what's powering the minds and the bodies of this generation, because we aren't being quiet and we aren't staying still. And I think that's very inspirational. So Martin Luther King to me means a hope for a better tomorrow.
A tomorrow where King's words become not just history, but reality.
We'll be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
The next generation is trying to honor King's legacy in many different ways. That's what prompted a group of teens from Dundee, Mississippi, to walk all the way to Memphis. They embarked on the 50-mile journey last Saturday, 1 mile for every year since King's assassination. The march has also been an opportunity for these young men to talk about race and to reflect on what Martin Luther King Jr. means to them.
Dr. King is God-fearing.
He was courageous. He's our leader.
Brave. Leadership. He shows great leadership.
Bravery.
Perseverance.
Tomorrow, they'll complete the final leg of their journey and walk to the National Civil Rights Museum at the Lorraine Motel.
To Turkey now, where the state of emergency following a failed coup has been extended 6 times. The detention of government officials, judges, and dissidents is seen by some as a political purge, and censorship is on the rise. Neil Kuxel shows us the growing state of silence overtaking Turkey's media, including the internet.
This is Adnan Hoca. Hoca means teacher, and he claims his lessons are religious. Critics call this a cult. He surrounds himself with young women and their flattery on his online show.
She's telling him how handsome she thinks he is. He says the same to her, and it goes on and on. This is an extreme, you could say even absurd, example of just one Turkish website.
But it's one of the examples the Turkish government used to launch new changes to the country's already strict internet broadcasting laws.
It may have been the way in for these changes, but freedom of expression experts say this was just an excuse.
Adnan Hoca is still online, by the way, but he keeps the women known as his kittens off camera now. As Yaman Akdeniz sees it, it's all a distraction from the real damage about to be done.
The desire is to control everything. So, I'm not surprised that they're trying to do that. The last battleground is the internet.
The new law gives Turkey's radio and TV regulator control over internet broadcasts. Streaming sites will have to get licenses to keep offering content to Turkish viewers. If outlets refuse to pull or change anything deemed too controversial, they could be shut down entirely. Independent Turkish news sites, established foreign networks broadcasting online, and VPNs, those workarounds people use to watch what they want or get at blocked content, are all under new scrutiny.
People are hungry for information, and access to information is important. So we all turn to Twitter and other social media platforms to get information or to understand what's going on in Turkey.
The government says there's nothing to fear. Sites like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter are not part of the new law. At its mildest, this is what censorship on Turkish TV looks like right now. Note that the blood is blurred out, but the violence itself passes the censors. Right now, those rules don't apply online. In terms of news and information, there is one opinion broadcast on Turkish TV and in most newspapers. Wikipedia is just one of more than 170,000 websites already blocked in Turkey. More than 800 accounts on Twitter are also off limits. Last week, the company that owns several newspapers and TV channels, including CNN Turk, sold its holdings to a pro-government businessman. Real debates and conversations don't happen on Turkish TV, but some Turks are still talking where and when they can. Akdeniz and his colleague Kerem Altıparmak were invited to speak at a dinner for political science grads. The pair know legal challenges and criticism from abroad don't usually bring quick change. Judges almost always side with the government and President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. So what's the point of pushing?
It has a very strategical importance in the region, but Turkey is not a superpower. So longer or shorter term, it will need Europe. So the condemnation coming from the European institutions, including the European Court of Human Rights, will mean more in the coming future.
The two believe they are still able to fight because they're independent academics. Victories are rare.
Yeah, we just got information that somebody that we were defending, a former academic who was thrown out of academia, he has received a not guilty verdict in relation to defaming the president of Turkey. This keeps us going, basically. Shows that, if we can convince one single judge, if we can convince one court, that may make a difference.
They believe they are writing Turkey's history, fighting for a time where ideas and opinions are celebrated, debated, not feared. Neil Kuxel, CBC News, Istanbul.
Up next on The National, we'll take you inside a farm that is putting crickets on the shelves of grocery stores to eat.
At final harvest, there's about 4 million crickets in this room. Million, yeah. And that will produce about 3,000 pounds of cricket meat.
And joining me now on Robson Street in Vancouver is Kelly Lawson. Mr. Lawson, good afternoon.
Hi.
What is it that you're hoping people will do or not do on National Buy Nothing Day, Mr. Lawson?
I hope that that people all around the first world countries of the world, that they will make a personal commitment not to buy anything, to buy absolutely nothing on Buy Nothing Day. In other words, to have a consumer fast.
Okay, and what would be the result? If you could realize this to the best of your dreams, what would be the result of people spending no money, people buying absolutely nothing?
Well, I think there'll be a little blip in our consumer culture, that this frenzy of consumption which happens every Christmas will suddenly, for the first time since the Second World War, have a little dip in it. And also I hope that, that it will also start a discussion about sustainability in the first world countries of the world. As you know, the first world countries, they consume about 80% of the world's resources,
right,
while being only about 20% of the world's population. So there's a sort of a excess consumption happening there that has to be addressed.
Well, how dangerous is that excess consumption? In your TV spot, you talk about how the voraciousness of our consumer culture could kill us because of the way we live. Is that accurate?
Yes. I think that overconsumption is the mother of all our environmental problems. And if we continue over-consuming at the rate we are, then we will literally hit the wall. You know, the planet's ecological support systems literally won't be able to sustain that level of consumption. And future generations will have to live with less because we are over-consuming now.
So what you're looking for then is a kind of an awareness, a kind of reflection. It doesn't sound too dangerous, but I would guess that some people who make their living off of consumer culture, which is, I guess, most of the people in North America, would see what you're doing as actually being a very, very subversive thing.
Well, I guess so, but you know, overconsumption has been for the last many years a taboo subject on commercial television.
Right.
People just don't talk about it, and our Buy Nothing Day spot, we're unable to air it on most of the big networks. So I think that our consumer culture, and that includes retailers, just have to wake up to the fact that the big consuming days are now over, and that the downshifting movement is going to redefine the American dream. It's going to redefine everything we do in the next 10 or 20 years.
Well, obviously the networks haven't awakened to that fact yet. What did they tell you when they said that they don't want to run your ads or TV spot?
Well, NBC said that it works against their legitimate business interests to run this ad.
Okay.
And ABC said that its overconsumption is a controversial issue, and therefore they will not run the ad. So there's sort of a strange thing happening on commercial television, as it has for the last few generations, where during Christmas time our television airwaves are full of messages telling us to consume and buy and do this and do that, and one little anti-consumption message is not allowed on the air.
Mr. Lawson, I've been reviewing the way that I consume every day and where my money goes and how much of it goes out of my pocket, and I'm not sure whether I could spend a day without spending a cent. How many days of the year do you personally go out there into the consumer world and buy nothing?
Well, I live in the country, so I go through many, many days without consuming.
There's a new way to watch CBC.
This is a smartphone.
And this is a smart belt. Watch new episodes and past seasons.
Hi. Ew.
Okay.
Can we feel that?
Thousands of episodes anytime for free.
Where does it end?
Where does what end?
The madness, sir.
Exclusive series. But I'm Chris Jericho. Stream live TV. A new way to watch CBC.
Surprise, I brought lunch.
Get the CBC TV app today.
I've always got something cricket in my purse for when I'm running around town, right? You've got your almonds, you've got your apple, I've got my crickets, either roasted or like a bar.
So would you eat crickets? Entrepreneurs have been trying to get the idea off the ground for years, but getting onto mainstream grocery store shelves has been a challenge until now. Loblaws started to sell President's Choice brand cricket powder, the chain advertising it as being high in protein with a mild flavor. Jacqueline Hansen got a taste of the industry.
Outside it looks like winter, but inside it sounds and feels like summer.
The crickets like it very hot.
Millions of tiny crickets that Darren Golden hopes will be big business.
At final harvest, there's about 3.5–4 million crickets in this room.
Million,
yep. And that will produce about 3,000 pounds of cricket meat.
for people to eat. Golden and his brothers own Entomo Farms, where they raise more than 100 million crickets at a time for human consumption.
It's about opening people's minds to the idea.
Crickets have become known for being protein-packed, but also high in iron, fiber, calcium, amino acids, and B12.
Eating bugs like crickets, but also beetles, ants, even caterpillars, isn't a new idea. The UN estimates at least 2 billion people around the world include insects in their diets. Still, for many Canadians, this could be hard to swallow.
But once the crickets are harvested, cleaned, roasted, and processed...
You're grinding the entire cricket?
Yes.
Legs, antennas...
Everything.
It looks like any other protein powder, and it's on its way to being as accessible. Entomo Farms struck a deal with Loblaws to make a President's Choice branded cricket powder.
It represents so many things, you know, it's a complete validation of our category. It takes us out of the niche market into the mainstream. So, you know, this really is the holy grail for us in terms of the next big step.
But it is an unusual move for a major Canadian grocer.
I was very surprised because, you know, the North American diet is pretty conservative. And we've always been known as the land of plenty, so where crickets and insects are the answer to the food crisis in the world, we've never had that crisis here in North America.
Still, it could be just what Loblaws needs to fill its growing natural food section.
People are looking for something that doesn't have all the other stuff that we can't pronounce, those 26-letter words. So cricket powder is cricket powder. I mean, it's just ground up bugs, right?
Some other major chains like Metro and Sobeys say they're interested in insect protein, but don't carry it yet. Whereas Whole Foods, known for being a high-end natural and organic grocer, is against it, saying we don't carry any edible insects because it goes against our quality standards for ingredients. Yet the industry continues to grow. Vancouver-based Coast Protein uses the same cricket powder to make protein bars.
We don't outwardly shout that we're a cricket product. We don't have photos of crickets on all our bars.
Because they know that can turn consumers and companies off.
We see that all the time when people be a bit like, oh, I'm not quite sure about this product, and then we see cut-up samples, or they see cut-up samples that we give them, and they go, oh, it's a protein bar, I get it. And that just really reduces one of the boundaries to getting into a new food source.
But if you really want to eat whole crickets, Entomo Farms sells those as well.
Okay.
That one's got lots of flavoring on it, so that's a good one.
It's got wings as well.
Wings and legs.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
a whole cricket.
All right, here we go. Yeah, it tastes like a cracker.
Yeah, just like food.
Just like food.
Whether or not Canadians are ready to swap their crackers for crickets or blend bugs into their morning smoothie, the PC-branded protein powder could be the high-profile boost the industry needs.
We don't know how fast this is going to grow, but we feel we're pretty well equipped.
You feel like you're ready when they're ready.
Today I do, yes. Tomorrow could be different.
Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Norwood, Ontario.
So, Rosemary, you know what I'm going to ask you, but a warning first of all. Remember that clip that I think it was with Peter from like 15 years ago introducing the internet, and then years later we kind of look at it and laugh, you know? So people may watch this in 15 years when everybody's eating crickets.
Right.
Would you?
So Jacqueline actually brought some to the newsroom.
Why do you think I left Toronto and am in Vancouver? But anyway, yes.
I am not inclined to eat something where I can see wings. I know, like chicken wings maybe. I can't do it with cricket. I just can't.
I'm with you, and I'm apparently there's a bag of them at my office in Toronto.
It's waiting for you.
Yes, we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Tastes just like a cracker.
Sure it does.
Now, if you don't want to eat crickets just yet, you can consider using them in a different way to grow your garden. And Tomo says a room that produces 3,000 pounds of cricket powder will also produce about 2,000 pounds of frass. That's cricket waste. The feces and urine are dry, so they're easy to collect and ship. and it can be used as, we're told, a high-quality organic fertilizer on plants.
Oh, excellent. I might do the powder. Maybe I would do the protein powder. Anyway, he was stuck in a sewer for more than 12 hours, and now that 13-year-old boy is telling his story. But first, remember, you can go deeper. I don't know if you go deeper on a cricket story, but you can go deeper on stories of the day earlier in the day. Subscribe to our newsletter at cbcnews.ca/The National Today. We'll take you inside our journalism every afternoon.
CBC News brings you live coverage of the... But at first, women reporters were largely assigned to feature angles, as was Trina McQueen in 1967.
Well, I think I know just how Mrs. Diefenbaker feels, because I'm wearing a wool dress, too, and it's about 90 degrees down here. She's got a very attractive outfit on, sort of plum-colored, unfortunately, wool dress, and a hat with pink and plum stripes.
We've come a long way from then, and Trina's come one hell of a long way since she's now she's the director not only of news, but of news and current affairs.
Toronto police say they have
Jan Tennant became the first woman to anchor the National, and then women began to move into reporter ranks in a big way.
Right now, this village is...
Ann Medina covered the Middle East, and she was joined by an increasing number of other women correspondents who covered diplomatic hotspots in Baghdad, or London, or Moscow, or economic and scientific news, or politics. The World at 6. Out of newsrooms and studios across Canada, The World at 6 at night and The World Today in the morning lead a parade of about 400 radio newscasts produced every day to satisfy the increasing Canadian hunger for news. Whether heard on radio or seen on television, CBC News has come a long way in 50 years. Faces changed, styles changed, technology changed. But Dan MacArthur's objectives are unchanged. Trina McQueen has followed in his steps as the Director of News and Current Affairs for CBC TV.
I think one of the things that strikes me about television news and CBC News generally is that it is a continuity of ideas and principles and visions. In other words, the ideas that informed CBC News 50 years ago, the notion of its responsibility to cover its own communities, its notion of the importance of seeing Canada through its own eyes and seeing other countries through Canadians' eyes are still the principal notions that guide us now. The notion of fairness, the notion of balance, the notion of reaching out for all kinds of opinions, the notion of discussion and debate are a continuity that has lasted for 50 years.
All the way back to first CBC anchorman Charles Jennings and then Lorne Green, there has been that continuity. There are reports of a great naval battle, even as the face of the news has changed. The first TV anchorman was Larry Henderson.
As Pyeongchang 2018 comes to a close, the Olympic journey continues.
And look at the time, 9:69.
One network is there. Every step of the way to Tokyo 2020 and beyond. CBC, Canada's Olympic Network. CBC TV app. Download now.
We are preparing for the military to secure our border between Mexico and the United States.
Donald Trump wants to send troops to help guard the southern border, a strategy he says will reduce illegal immigration until his long-promised border wall is built. Worth noting that past presidents, including Barack Obama, also occasionally deployed troops to the border. Trump says he'll discuss the plan with his defense secretary. A Dutch lawyer is the first person to be sentenced as part of the FBI's Russia probe. Alex van der Zwaan will spend 30 days in prison for lying to investigators about his contacts with former Trump campaign aide Rick Gates. The charges against van der Zwaan were not directly related to the main focus of the FBI's investigation, Russian election interference.
After a longer search than expected, the government announced a new president for CBC and Radio-Canada today. Catherine Tate says it's an honor to be the first woman to lead the public broadcaster.
This is my dream job.
Tate brings more than 30 years of experience in film and TV, including at Telefilm Canada and the production company that made This Hour Has 22 Minutes. Since 2002, she's been running her own independent film, TV, and digital company in New York. She also co-founded an online content and distribution platform. And it's all that digital trailblazing that got Catherine Tate the job. As Ron Charles tells us, the hope is her experience will help the CBC evolve in changing times.
Catherine Tate's appointment gives an indication of where the CBC is headed. Tate will be the corporation's first ever president and CEO with an extensive background in the expanding world of digital content.
We're living an enormous disruption, as you well know. And as we move forward into the digital age, the CBC and Radio-Canada has a role to play, an important role to play as a public broadcaster.
As more and more viewers and listeners move online, CBC and Radio-Canada have already flooded digital platforms with their content. Apps for TV shows, apps for radio shows, apps to deliver news to phones and social media feeds anywhere Canadian eyeballs are looking. Finding digital age candidates to head the public broadcaster fell to an independent panel the Liberal government created for the search. The former journalist who headed the panel says they looked for people who could lead the CBC further into its digital future.
It's not what happens in the next year or two, it's what happens in the next 5 years and the next 10 years that is really going to answer what the future of the CBC is. What is the future of a national broadcaster in an era when broadcasting, as we knew it, is disappearing?
Really cool. This is original.
That future will likely look a lot like filmmaker Stephen Hoffner's passion project. It's a scripted digital series he's developing with Studio Entertainment One, titled The Six, about 6 young people trying to follow their dreams in Toronto. He's pitched it as 6 10-minute episodes, each short enough to be social media friendly.
It's a very more complex landscape, and that's because there's just more ways for people to consume the content. It used to be just a movie theater or a television. Now we have our phones. That kind of changed the game.
That ever-changing game will be the principal challenge facing the CBC and its new president and CEO when she starts her 5-year gig in July. Ron Charles, CBC News, Toronto.
Last night we told you about Jesse Hernandez. A 13-year-old spent more than 12 hours trapped in a maze of sewer drains underneath Los Angeles. Search crews feared for the worst, but remarkably the boy survived, virtually unscathed, and now he's telling his story. That is our moment of the day.
I was thinking, like, I'm gonna die, like, I was never gonna see my parents again.
It was Easter Sunday, and during a family picnic, Jesse Hernandez was playing with his cousin, jumping on wooden planks near an abandoned building when one of them gave way.
I didn't see that. It was a little piece of wood, and I stepped on it, and I just fell down.
He plunged more than 7 meters into the sewage pipe, the cold, putrid water sweeping him away.
The video shows there's like handprints on the wall. Did you do that on purpose so people would know where you were?
I did that.
How did you think of that?
I don't know, because, like, I knew, like, they were gonna, like, come in or something for they could, like, track me down.
He was right. Above ground, a massive search was underway. Crews were going from manhole to manhole and using video cameras to peer into the pipes. And then early Monday morning, about a kilometer from where he fell, workers spotted the handprints and found Hernandez alive.
I said, help, pick me up.
Hernandez was taken to hospital to be checked out, but he managed to escape with just a few scratches.
I'm thankful for coming back with my family.
We stay strong and everything, and yeah, a miracle happened.
Like an incredible miracle. The fact that he got out with just those scratches and that he had the wherewithal in a pipe full of, you know, stuff to think, oh, I'm going to put handprints up in case they can find me. It's amazing.
That kid is so poised.
Yeah.
Let me give you my paranoid dad moment of the day, and
Please.
my sons, if they're watching, be rolling their eyes. I am terrified of old rotten floorboards. When we used to be like in southern Alberta and old farm properties walking around, I'd say, do not step there. There might be a well underneath, so let that be a lesson for everybody.
And now the children say, Dad.
Exactly.
All right, that's the National for Tuesday, April 3rd. Good night, everybody.
Good night.